The people who encounter UFOs the most, and I'm saying this with almost like 100% confidence, is not civilians like you and I, but pilots. And an example would be the recent fuss around the TikTok video, which simply confirms that. And here I am to spill the tea about the fact that also Scandinavian pilots had encounters like this. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. Before we jump into the story, couple of things. First of all, thank you so much for the feedback about my previous video about the Swedish sighting in the 80s. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you. And secondly, I know I look a little bit weird. That's because this girl went to the dentist a couple of days ago, and afterwards she looked like a hamster because this cheek went so swollen. But I know that it's still a little bit swollen, so nothing's wrong with me. It's just, yeah, this is how I look at the moment, but it will go away. And I think I've said in one of my previous videos, like, if you don't like my face, this is not a beauty vlog. You can literally not look at me, but the stories, you must listen to those. If you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, then check out what kind of videos I have here, and you will realize that we have here quite a curious community that's looking into different mysteries and UFOs in Scandinavia and in general, and not only that, so make sure to subscribe. Thank you. Okay, and now it's time for the story. We have to jump into our time machines and go back to the April 12th, 1969. This case, I can tell you, is one of the most discussed in Finland. So we are going to Finland. And also, this case is officially called as Finland's only most significant UFO sighting. The story starts with a Finnish pilot named Juko Kuronen, who was on that day preparing for his orientation flight in Pori Airport. Pori is a small city and also a municipality on the west coast of Finland, and around 2.5 kilometers away from the city, there lies Pori Airport. It's a really small airport with like a couple of check-ins, a little lounge area, and one cafe. This airport is also the home of Finnish Aviation Academy. So basically, they're training the new pilots there. And this also explains why Kuronen was having his orientation flight on that day in that airport. So basically, Pori Airport is used both by civilian and also military. So before the departure, Kuronen overheard on his radio conversation between a pilot who was already in the air doing his maneuvers with the traffic controller. And so the controller said, I quote, "Hey 286, stop your dive and see what those 7 balloons are above you." So what we can understand is that there were 7 weird balloons up in the air, and there was a pilot who was flying at that moment, and he was ordered to go closer and investigate those 7 weird balloons. The pilot's name, who was up in the air and who was ordered to investigate those balloons, was Tarmo Tukkeva. So he was on that day practicing his bombing attacks, but now he's scheduled to do this investigation. They are standing still on top of the field here. The height would be somewhere between 1,500 and 3,000 meters, and there seem to be 7 of them. Tukkeva approached those balloons with his Fouga Magister, that's the type of the jet that he was flying at that moment. And a little side note, so a couple of sources translate these objects as balloons. Some say it's balls, but all in all, it's a round shape. And the thing is that it was reported that those objects, they were in a yellowish color, yellowish light, something like that. And also what Tukkeva reported was that all of 7 of them, they were kind of grouped all together. Next, Tukkeva witnessed something really interesting. It seemed like all of the 7 balloons who created this formation, like tight formation, they started to separate, and in a very high speed they went away towards the north. I assume that those objects, they noticed that they are noticed, so they decided to separate and go away as fast as possible so that nobody could follow them. Not that actually anybody could follow them, because the speed was described as very, very fast, like nobody could catch them. What is interesting is that it was measured that on that moment the the wind was blowing with a strength of 185 kilometers per hour, and those objects, they were flying against the wind. So this means that those vehicles, they were super, super powerful. Afterwards, those objects were seen on the radar in Vasa airspace, which is like 200 kilometers away from Pori airport. Kuronen, remember the first guy I mentioned in the story who was preparing for the departure and who overheard the conversation, he said that he also saw all of those 7 objects in the sky, and he said that they looked like disc shape. So basically, again, it was a round shape. In some sources, I actually read that around 20 pilots noticed these 7 objects hovering in the sky or flying in the sky, but I couldn't find any details. But one fact is for sure, Kuronen and Tukova, those guys, those are legit sources and witnesses. And what is really important is that those flying objects, they were spotted on the radar, which is very important for the credibility of this story. Now, this case was a huge mystery because nobody could find any explanations of the behavior, activities, and also the characteristics of these 7 flying objects. In fact, this is the only case that the Finnish Air Force has officially confirmed that this is something that they cannot explain. Kuronen and Tukeva are serious men. I mean, they're pilots, they're in aviation, so I think we can believe them. And also important that they never changed their testimony throughout the time. Kuronen continued his career in aviation. He became the head of Lappeenranta Airport. Sorry for pronunciation if there are any Finns out there watching this video. And also Kuronen was very vocal and very public, and he talked a lot about this encounter that he had on that day. Tukeva also was not keeping his experience to himself. He was very public and he was also open to interviews. In fact, he also participated in a TV show where he gave his testimony. The program was called Visitors from the Skies. This program actually got a prize in one UFO film festival that was held in Las Vegas. Guys, I didn't know those ones existed. So can somebody please send me an invitation to that? Because I would be very happy to attend one of those festivals. Anyways, weird or maybe just a coincidence, a couple of weeks after Tukeva gave his testimony about his experience, he died from a heart attack. I'm just gonna leave a pause here because I don't know what to think. I don't know. Now, the question nevertheless is, was this case properly investigated? So this question actually leaves me a little bit puzzled because, first of all, the Finnish Air Force, they officially confirmed that this is a case that cannot be explained, but they do not provide any more details about the investigation or what are their speculations about what was that the pilots saw in the sky. So I don't know, maybe that was just because they were also as puzzled as you and I now, and they didn't have anything additional to tell, or maybe they were just hiding something. In 1993, Tietoma Science Center in Oulu, in Finland, they created a UFO exhibition and international UFO seminar that had participants from Canada, Estonia, Russia. And they also co-organized this with another organization that was called FUFORA, which is basically like UFO Finland. So people report different weird stuff to them, and then they go and investigate and make publications about that. The organizers of this seminar and exhibition wrote an official letter to the Finnish Air Force and required some more detailed information, more specifics about this Pori case. And they received an official letter that was signed by the chief of the Finnish Air Force. In this letter, it was indeed confirmed that this event took place and that all of this that the people encountered there, the 7 balloons and the very quick acceleration and other stuff, all of that cannot be explained in any normal ways. So basically the same that I said before, we confirm, but we don't have any further details. However, FUFORA, the Finnish UFO organization, did not stop at this. They continued their own investigation and tried to maintain close relationship with Finnish army. But the officials were not very keen into sharing any kind of details related to unidentified flying objects. But they confessed that there have been more situations like this, like they have spotted some things in the Finnish airspace more than just this one time that is like mostly known. The reason why they were not very keen on sharing any kind of details, as they explained, was because this topic concerns the Finnish airspace, so basically the safety of the country, and also it would involve too much information about the technologies that they have, which is kind of logic. I do understand that. They also added that these sightings do not pose any real threat to the Finnish citizens, and they were afraid that if they go public, that would seed like unnecessary fear into the people. So as I'm interpreting this, is that the officials are actually trying to kind of very politely tell the UFO Finland to fuck off, leave us alone. And also they're kind of awkwardly confirming that there have been more cases than just this one. I also would love to mention another thing in relation to this case. There is an ex-pilot who worked for one of the largest Finnish aviation companies, FINNISH, so he was a pilot there, and his name was Ilpo Koskinen, and he talked publicly a lot about the multiple sightings that he had while he was still a pilot in FINNISH. Just like you and me would most probably talk to the colleagues during the breaks about different stuff, job-related, private life-related, this pilot also was talking to his fellow pilots, and what he understood from those conversations is that most of them also have that kind of stories of weird sightings in the sky. According to Koskinen, he said that he had talked to hundreds of Finnair pilots, and he concluded that every fourth actually had a story of an encounter with an unidentified flying object while they were on their duty. While doing my research, I came across with this article that said that during the 70s, FUFORA, the Finnish UFO organization, actually had some progress while having these negotiations with Finnish Army and Air Force. So allegedly, they got some generals that were ready, like in secrecy, to provide some information so that they can cooperate and investigate cases like this. But it all stopped because allegedly the FUFORA was ready to provide all of the information they have, all the reports that they had about sightings in the sky, but the officials, in turn, they didn't want to give anything from their archives to them so that they can both put all of the information together and start to investigate. So basically, they were expecting to collect all the information from FUFORA and would not give anything back to them. So guys, cooperation means both sides are contributing, you know? But again, I'm not surprised that it happened like that. If this secret cooperation and negotiations really took place, I'm not surprised that the officials backed out and also wanted to trick the UFO organization with collecting just the information from them. Now, what we can conclude from this case? First of all, I think it's important to mention that not so much is known about this, but we have an official confirmation from the government, from the Finnish Air Force, that this happened and all of this is true. So we shouldn't question that. The question is, who was that? Who were these 7 balloons, if I can ask like that? Also, I just wanted to mention that what gives this case a lot of credibility is the sources. So in most cases, the main source, also in the cases that I'm covering on my channel, the main source is the human being, like the person who saw that and gives the testimony. But let's not forget that people can very convincingly lie. I am not saying that both of the pilots lied. I mean, they are army people and they stuck to their testimony up until the end. They haven't changed it. So I do think they are reliable, but you know, there will always be someone who say, yeah, anyone can invent this kind of story. But don't forget the second and the most important source that I mentioned in this story. the radar. So traffic controllers saw those balloons on the radar, and later they were also spotted 200 kilometers away from Pori Airport, also on the radar. So we have already two sources. So this is a very, very big case in my opinion. And also the facts that I mentioned from the Finnair ex-pilot, it just proves that there is activity also on the Scandinavian sky, on the Finnish airspace, and not only. So I'm just like, I would be so eager to read any kind of reports or investigations that were done by the Finnish Air Force in relation to this case. But unfortunately, we don't have anything apart from the facts that I already told you. And I'm very sure that the Finnish government did some additional investigation. I mean, who would leave this kind of situation just hanging? Like, yeah, we concluded that this is something weird. We cannot explain it normally. So that's it. They did something. I am pretty sure about that. They just don't want to tell us. And what can I say? These were no Chinese balloons for sure. This was something more. Like, write down in comments, what do you think about this case? How do you think? Could this be extraterrestrial? I'm kind of believing into that. Or you think that there is some kind of logic explanation to this that is not even close to the extraterrestrial? I mean, but why such a secrecy around that, you know? That's the main question. I have a suspicion that I will return to Finnish cases again, because I have found a couple that I think you would love to hear. By the way, have you seen another Finnish case that I covered on my channel? It was about two guys who had close encounter in Finland in the woods, and afterwards those guys got really ill. So I will link that below if you missed it. It's really, really interesting. I guess that's it for today. I hope my cheek will heal and I will come back to you as soon as possible. And I also hope that you have some spring. Like these days here in Bergen have been such a spring days, you know? See, I put some flowers and I'm in green, so the sun is shining outside. It's really warm. I just hope it will not go away quickly because, you know, Bergen equals rain. That being said, see you next time. Have a lovely day. Take care of yourself. See you next time.